Mike coming at you from everydaycarryconcealed.com. Wanted to bring you guys another quick video today about bullet pullers. So a bullet puller is basically a way to disassemble a cartridge. So why would anyone want to use one of these? Well, the biggest reason that anyone would want to use a bullet puller is because they need to check their reloads. So that's predominantly what I use a bullet puller for. I have two different models today. So one is a Hornady that it works with my press, and then the other one is the Frankford Arsenal. It's a hammer style, inertia driven bullet puller, and I'm going to show you how to use both of those and sort of what the benefits and the drawbacks are, the pros and the cons of each different type. So I've only loaded up 4 rounds today. I didn't do my normal routine of measuring my powder drop and all that, so I have to disassemble these cartridges anyways. So it's a great opportunity to show someone who is just getting started into reloading, who might not know what this is for or how to use these tools, that it's super simple, and depending on what your setup is and what you're trying to accomplish, it may benefit you to use one style or the other. So without further ado, let's get into the most cost-effective version, which is the inertia hammer-driven style. So what I have here is the Frankford Arsenal hammer-driven inertia style, and I'm going to take apart the head up here and show you how the pieces fit together. So if you're just getting it new in the box, you don't feel like reading the instructions, which are, by the way, very intuitive, you'll at least know how to use this thing. So the first piece is this screw-on cap. So screw-on cap, pretty straightforward, but what it holds is this collet, and I don't know if you'll be able to tell, there's this groove in there. And so the grooves basically translate to whichever caliber. So I shoot and reload 9mm almost exclusively for now. And so I just have this already set up. But if you need to set it up, it comes in 3 different pieces. Okay, and then you've got this rubber O-ring. And so all you need to do is there is a groove on the side of it as well that fits that O-ring, okay? So you're just gonna fit all 3 of those pieces in. It'll fit nice and snugly. Make sure that that demarcation cut in the bottom of the collet pieces is they're all facing in the same direction. Let me back up a little bit. So pretty straightforward, and then you get something that looks like this, okay? Make sure that that's nice and snug down in there. All right, perfect. So what that's gonna do is that's gonna fit on top of this, and you'll notice that the head of this hammer piece is actually hollowed out, okay? And so I put the demarcation grooves facing down, and then you screw on the head. And when you screw on the head, you don't need to go tight, all right? You actually want to go loose. And the reason for that is because the collet is actually going to expand when you stick the bullet in there. So I'm going to stick a 9mm casing or cartridge in there. And it's going to fit in there nice and snugly. It actually grabs the case head, and that's what holds the cartridge in place. And then you can tighten down. Now, what I will do when I do this is I actually don't put the collet in place initially. I'll actually take the collet out and just manually slide that in until I get it seated. And then I can place it in the head of the inertia hammer-driven bullet puller. Then once you have that, all you need is, where's my wooden block? Give me 2 seconds. All right, I'm back. Then all you need is a 2x4 scrap piece. This is pressure treated, but you don't need pressure treated. And you're gonna aim the narrow end down when you're slamming this down. So all you're gonna do is give it a couple good wraps. I only needed one because I know how much pressure to use. And you may be able to see in there that the bullet has detached itself from the actual casing. There's also powder down in there from that action. So at this point, you've got a casing that is primed, and then you've separated out the bullet and the actual powder drop. Now, a couple important things to note. We talked about the collet and how there is a specific collet for different calibers. There is no 22 caliber bullet puller for this style, and the reason for that is because the priming compound on a rimfire cartridge is around the case head. So, and obviously you're driving down with significant force. If the priming compound is in that case head, when you make contact, it could. So never, 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 never use rimfire cartridges with this bullet puller, okay? And they make sure to say that in the instructions as well, but I wanted to include it in case someone's out there like, oh, I want to take apart this 22 round. Anyways, great for center fire, not good for rimfire cartridges, okay? Once you've done this, so we've hammered, we've got the bullet and the powder drop separated, now you need to actually unscrew this cap, take the collet out. You'll see that now there is no longer a bullet present. Pop that out. And inside here is the bullet and the powder. So what I use is I use like a little glass bowl like this and just gently dump it out. Give it a little tap. Make sure I get all of that powder out. So now you'll see there's the powder and the bullet. So the reason that I do this, I need to get the bullet separate. I can't dump all of everything that's in the head of this Frankford Arsenal puller into my powder reservoir. So now that I've done that, take the bullet out, bam, set that aside, open up my powder reservoir, and I can dump that powder back in so it can be reloaded. Pretty straightforward, guys, relatively easy to use. Again, this is mostly for the reloading folks out there. If you had a student that you're instructing one-on-one that you wanted to show them literally how the components of a cartridge, you can use it and be like, see, this is the powder, this is, you know, the bullet, this is the casing, this is the primer piece, this is what it looks like on the inside. You can do all of that, but for the most part, this is for the reloaders. All right, so that takes care of the hammer-driven style. I will go through real quick and just do one round without instruction just so you guys can see how long this process takes. Grab the bullet, seat it in the collet, put it in, tighten this up. Okay, it fell. Boom. Separate the bullet, dump the powder. One cartridge disassembled. All right. That was for a rough timeline if you guys are interested in knowing sort of how long it would take to pull a single bullet. Obviously you can, what I do if I need to disassemble multiple cartridges is I dump 5, 6, 7, 10 rounds into, or components into this glass bowl before I start separating out bullets and stuff. So time saver, still relatively slow. Next, we're gonna move on to this cam lock style, which I'll get to in a minute, and I gotta readjust the camera, which is for an actual reloading press. So more on that in a second. Okay guys, I apologize, you're not going to see my beautiful smiling face during this portion, and that's because I need you to be able to see the setup. So what I have here is the Hornady lock and load progressive and progressive press, sorry. And in my hand, I have the cam lock bullet puller. So this is designed to operate with this setup. So just slide this in, rotate to lock it into place, okay? And then you've got this pivoting arm here, okay? And so functionally, how this is different from the inertia-driven bullet puller that we just talked about, the Frankford Arsenal, is that the Frankford Arsenal relies on force, and that downward force, when the bullet catches, is transferred into that bullet, which then essentially knocks it out, right? A camlock style like this is different in that there's actually inside, let me take it out real quick, you may or may not be able to see it. Inside, there are these little clasps, I guess, that lock onto the bullet, okay? So I'm going to insert, lock it back into place. When the arm is up in this direction, that means that it is open. When it is down, that means it's locked onto whatever it is you're trying to extract. So when we put the bullet in there, you'll feel some resistance as you get down into this range, okay? You want to make sure that that's fully seated. Now, in terms of actually configuring this, so this is set up for 9mm. Like I said, that's what I predominantly shoot. And this piece right here actually screws down, and that will allow the cam lock, the crimp on the actual bullet to be tighter, okay? And if I've got one here from when I was initially setting it up, and you may be able to see, yeah, around the top there, there's like an indent in the bullet, okay? And that's from this cam lock actually gripping onto the bullet so that I could move the casing down. But if it's too tight, you will get that indentation in the actual bullet itself. Now, that was for setup purposes. You may go through a handful of bullets while you're setting this up to make sure that it's the proper amount of pressure. It's sort of cost of doing business, right? You can, if you really want to, try and use those to reload. I don't recommend it, but it is something that you will have to do during the setup of the Hornady cam lock. So now onto the actual bullet pulling. So presses going, right? Okay, so now you get to the point where you've got a fully pressed bullet, okay? And I've got this loaded up on my last station. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let it rotate. I'm gonna actuate it so that the bullet is all the way up in the press, okay? This arm sort of representing top and bottom. Then I'm gonna take this arm and I'm going to pull down until it locks into place, all right? You'll feel that tension, you'll feel it gripping onto the bullet. Now, once you've done that, you can go ahead and slowly lower the arm for actuating. Make sure that you get a hold of the casing. And inside the casing, there's a powder drop, okay? So now I can dump this into the reservoir straight away, set that aside, undo the cam lock, and the bullet comes right out. Now, you'll see that there's significantly less of a indentation on this as compared to that first one that I showed. That's because it's all configured. It's set up for this 9mm right away. Just like the hammer-driven one, I'm going to show you the time it takes to pull the bullet from the cam lock. Set. There. Bam. So why would someone want this cam lock style as opposed to the inertia-driven hammer? Well, obviously it's faster, right? You can go through bullets like that. So if you've got, like I had 200 reloads that I did. At some point, my powder drop arm became disconnected. I had a handful, I think it was like 5 or 10 out of 200 that didn't have a powder drop. And I got to the range and I kept having squibs and I couldn't figure out why. I was like, all right, got to unload everything that I reloaded last night. This is significantly faster. Now, I didn't have this. I had to borrow it from my buddy. But I was using the hammer-driven. After every pull, I had to dump the stuff into here. Then after a certain amount, I had to take the bullets out. Then I had to dump the powder back in. It was a lot more time-consuming than the process with the cam lock. So if you have a large quantity that you're of bullets that you need to check the powder drop or whatever you need to deconstruct, then the cam lock's going to be the way to go. It's just faster. It's just easier once it's set up. There's no screwing on, unscrewing. The other thing is that for the Frankford Arsenal, I have to have something to catch the bullet and the powder drop in, because it doesn't maintain the powder in the casing, which means I don't have a nice little package that I can then dump into the reservoir here. Okay, so it's just another thing that you have to consider when you're pulling your bullets. Hopefully this has been helpful. If you guys have any questions about it, feel free to leave a comment. But I just wanted to show you the two different styles and sort of go over the benefits. The cost of the Frankfurt Arsenal is like $25 or $30. The cam lock is a little bit more expensive, and you need an actual press setup in order to operate it. So depending on what your purposes are, it's going to dictate which one you're going to want to get. But yeah, hopefully this has been educational, quick walkthrough of how to use these pieces. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. If you found this content helpful, give it a thumbs up, be much appreciated. And until next time, I will see you guys.